Pick Six with Mully and Haugh starts now.
What did you make of the White Sox coming back twice and beating Cleveland 4-2? Are you concerned about Luis Robert Jr., who left the game with a strained quad? What about Jake Berger with 5 strikeouts and the dreaded Olympic rings?
Yeah, Jake Berger struck out a lot. It was noticeable, and I didn't know that was a thing. Apparently, there are 5 interconnecting rings in the Olympics, so that's where the Olympic rings come from. The golden sombrero is the one you hear, and that's for 4 strikeouts, so he exceeded that, which is disturbing. But I don't think that's the biggest deal in the world. He is playing second base. I can't wait to talk to Ozzie. We'll talk to Ozzie at 8 o'clock. Ozzie had suggested that they needed to have already sent him to winter ball so that he could play second base, and maybe he'd be ahead of the game. But now he's working out at second base because they know that Aloy is going on his rehab assignment soon, and they want to keep Berger's bat in the lineup. I don't know if that's getting to him at all. We'll keep an eye on him. Listen, whenever a Sox player leaves the game, of course you're going to have your radar up, and of course you're going to worry about Luis Robert Jr. in particular, because he's such an important part of it. We've already heard from the manager after the game saying he's not playing today, so makes sense that he wouldn't play coming back as they have to. But, listen, they need to beat Cleveland, and they need to win road games, and they're better than that team, and you're not going to win many games when you're shut out. So when they came back from a 1-run deficit twice and then took the lead, God bless them.
Well, I think it's really important that they came back twice. Obviously, they needed to do that to win, and it's not only that, Mully, you mentioned it earlier, but doing it with the bottom of the order. That's important, right? Where they got the offense from last night, I don't think any of those guys were the picks to click.
I think Chuck took Jake Berger, believe it or not.
I think Clint Frazier coming through was interesting. I think Roman Gonzalez coming through was good. And you're right, the bottom of the order delivered. And that was a good win, quality win for the White Sox, because you don't want to waste an effort like that from Dylan Cease. You don't want to waste the best stuff from your ace. Maybe he wasn't at his best, but he was good enough, and he deserved a victory, and it was his first one. I know wins don't count, but it did last night, and he got his first one since April 10th, so good for him. Jake Berger, that was an amusing oddity, because 5 strikeouts is something you don't want to have on your resume. I think that you kind of give him the benefit of the doubt because he could be back in the lineup today and hit 2 home runs or hit a homer and a double. That's why he's there. That's why he's going to be tried at second base. And, boy, will that be entertaining.
He hasn't hit a road homer this year.
It's been a while since he's hit a home run, period.
But he hit 8 or 9. How many's he got?
He's got 10. He's got 10
home. All at home.
All at home, and he had 10 and 79 at bats, and now he's got 10 in 101. So
wow. I
think he needs to go deep just to remove those questions. As for Luis Robert Jr., I'm more concerned about the fact that there's a miscommunication here. Pedro Grifol called it a strained quad. The team released a Twitter announcement that it was a hip. Which is it, and how bad is it?
It looked like a hip in real time.
Wow, very tough question. Very, very hard.
That's Ozzie. He'll be here at 8. How much confidence do you have in TA to rebound, even if it won't match TA's belief in himself when he said, quote, "Everyone around knows my work ethic, knows the goals and the focus. I'm nothing but one swing away from setting this blank on fire." Are you a believer?
I have to say, that pregame interview with Scott Merkin from MLB.com was vintage Tim Anderson. I think this is a player fueled by confidence, so that to me was a good sign. The fact that he does still believe that he's capable of being the best player on the field. The fact that he is brushing off some of the questions about his defense after what was a rocky week last week. It was. And then he goes out, and obviously he did not have the night at the plate that he wanted, 1 for 5, but he made a key play in a close game up the middle, making a diving stop of an infield hit, making the throw to home to cut down the runner. That's TA doing the right thing, a winning play. So this is the bat flip mentality. This is the confidence that you like to hear. This is Tim Anderson. Take him or leave him, but I'm glad the Sox have him, because this is what you want to hear from a guy that is going to be brash, but he can back it up, and I think eventually this season he will.
Eventually? I mean, let's play the Jed Hoyer drop. I mean, David, he's batting 200. He has no home runs.
244.
He's no home runs. He didn't hit one since July.
Right.
I mean, okay. You made a good defensive play. Congratulations. But, I mean, there's really a debate in this town about who the better shortstop is.
If you bring up DeAndre Swanson, I'm going to stop.
How about if I bring up Michael Jordan?
All these little trigger points. Dustin's version of trigger point therapy.
Do need a couch, but a whole other story.
Oh, my God. Here's the thing. And I agree with you, David. I'm a fan of Tim Anderson. I like watching him play. I would like him to get hot, and eventually he will. I agree with that. And I think he's right. I think once he gets going, he's going to go for a long time. I just want to talk about that play for a second. Why would you send that guy?
I know.
That was such a mistake.
What were they doing?
What the hell were they? I mean, he cut him down. The guy was, first of all, about 6 feet away from the plate when the ball was thrown. I think he must have thought the ball got through, because that made zero sense. And then when was he sliding or trying to run around the tag? He was about 5 feet.
They just laid there.
It was
like somebody knocked him out. Right?
I was worried the guy behind him might score while they were tagging him out. He was so far removed from the
great.
That was just, you don't usually see that bad baseball from a team that is managed by friend of the program Terry Francona. But that was madness. It was really something. I listen, Tim, feel free to silence all your critics. I think it's great.
Can we get Terry Francona back on the show today to ask him why he pitched to Romy?
It's why they sent a guy.
It's funny you brought that up. Watching that game last night, I thought Ozzie might be right about the team winning that division won't be over 500.
It's a pick six.
What did you think of David Ross saying this about the Cubs only being 4.5 games out of the NL Central before Tuesday's game, despite their record?
Yeah, I think you find those ups and downs. Thank goodness for the play of everybody in the division, I guess, right?
What is your reaction to David Ross saying what he just said there?
I mean, I don't want to overreact to it, but it was a little bluer than I would expect from him. He's very funny and he's a good guy and he's someone that you can talk baseball with forever. But I just thought it was a little, and I wonder, is he getting kind of fed up of all the second guessing and of all the expectation and of the way that he's suddenly viewed now that it's when they were losing, he was this, God, look how he's getting to these guys. Did you see what they did in the second half?
Affable. I think we said affable.
And he was
approachable,
keeping his good humor. And I mean, that was, as you say, crass. That's the right word for it. It was just a little bit unexpected, and maybe he let the mask slip a little bit. But it just surprised me because I don't feel like he's in as good a temperament as we normally would see him. And I don't know how anyone would be when you're having the troubles that they're having and there is the second guessing that is having. It just made me wonder about where he's at and how he feels about all this stuff. And it was just a little different than normal. That's all. Nothing major.
I like a red backsided David Ross. Reminds me of the guy we met many years ago in the clubhouse. That maybe that's what they need. David Ross, I thought part of why they brought him to be the manager was to light some people up, and maybe that's what happened. So, good.
Bad look. You can say things the right way and say what you mean. He's right. They are in a division that is, subpar. But if you are the manager of I just would have put it a different way. I just think he could have put it a different way. If this is the mood that he was in, okay, fine. He's Grumpy Rossi instead of Grandpa Rossi. That's okay. But he did sound like he was in a bad mood. It sounded like he was crass. And by the way, he sounded different than what his team president sounded a little bit later when he said that It's not
early forever.
Thank you, Jed. You're right. It's not early forever, and even if you are in a crappy division.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question.
Was it good to see Matt Mervis break out with his first homer at Wrigley Field? Were you losing patience with him?
Yes, to be honest. Yes, I have been worried about Matt Mervis. Yes, I wanted him to go deep at Wrigley. Yes, I was glad he was batting ninth. This is how you answer batting ninth.
Yeah.
If you're Matt Mervis, who probably has never done that before in his life. I know it's the first time he's done it as a Cub. So I have to think that you're the big, strapping, left-handed power hitter at Duke, probably in every team you've ever been on. My guess is last night was the first time he ever batted ninth. And when you are that guy and you see the lineup and you see where you're at on it, it's deflating. It's got to be something. Okay, kid, prove us right for bringing you up. Do something to justify all of the hype and the hope. And he did. And good for him because he was due. I mean, he really was due. He's got to, be more consistent. You see some nice things that you like, but the Cubs are in the midst of a division they can contend in, compete with. So Matt Mervis needs to be productive. There are no internships, not this year. There are no apprenticeships, not anymore. So if you want to stay, you've got to hit, regardless of where you are in the order. So that was a welcome sight.
Welcome sight, and I'm glad that while I'll say me, it might have been losing patience with him, I like where the Cubs put him in the order. It takes a lot of pressure off him. I'm glad they didn't sit him down. They're still putting him out there when it makes sense to put him out there, and he had a nice night. Also aggressive on the base pass, right? They reviewed a play. The ump, I don't know how he called him out, but called him out. Luckily, they reviewed it, and he was safe, and that drove in another run. So, sure, let him bat ninth. Who cares? Eventually, yeah, you want him batting fourth or fifth because, as David put it, he's the strapping young first baseman with left-handed power. But right now, you could have the guy at ninth.
I feel
no problem.
mocked.
No, but that was that. You're right, David. I'm saying you can't fall in love with like what he should be doing. So instead, you don't give up on him and you put him down at the bottom of the order. Listen, they left Seiya Suzuki where they left him for way too long. Now, granted, he has turned around, but I wouldn't have had a problem if they would have batted Seiya Suzuki ninth for a while. I wasn't saying to sit him down. Now, it turned out okay, but when they were doing awful with runners in scoring position, and when they did decide to play Jan Gomes a couple times, had him batting eighth, you could have switched him and Suzuki around, and maybe things would have been different.
As I was listening to the Fly the W podcast, I heard Dustin say that they might have made a mistake by getting rid of Eric Hosmer. Either I heard him say that or I made that up.
Because I don't think you were listening to the Fly the W podcast. No shot.
Defending my guy, Dustin. Back off.
Yeah.
I think that, honestly, like Mash Mervis was in danger of being fried, okay? And I think you were aware of that he wasn't kind of performing the role. When I saw him in the 9-hole, my thought wasn't, oh, they're really going to get him going. My thought was rut row. I mean, that's about as far as you can drop a guy before you drop a guy.
The next step is batting 10th.
There you go. That's exactly right. So I was pleased to see that happen because, yes, I think we've all been a little bit impatient and we all figured that it was coming, but we were all confused as to why it wasn't coming faster. And it just, it's interesting. I wonder if you're right, David, if he just is reacting to being dropped to the 9. Now I got to get it going. Here we go. And I would hope that this is sort of the unlocking of something for him, because you see that first one go, and I'm talking about the first one at Wrigley. It's different on the road because the reaction was fantastic to that. So I'm hoping to see much more of that, and I think it was a big moment, perhaps one we will look back upon as a big moment.
What was your question?
Why was Jaylon Johnson not at voluntary OTAs? Is this about his expiring contract? Is he this year's version of Roquan Smith? Is his situation different than other absentees, such as Nate Davis, Eddie Jackson, Darnell Mooney? What did you make of Matt Eberflus downplaying the issue?
Jaylon participating in the offseason program?
Yeah, like I said, it's voluntary. and it's each player can choose or not to be here. You know, and I really can't comment if he's here or not, and it's voluntary.
Your reaction there to what Coach Eberflus had to say?
Yeah, I mean, you know, voluntary is got to be in quotation marks. It's air quotes, voluntary. If you're with the program, if you have signed up for it, you better be there. They want you there. If you're a new guy, they want you there. Now, the problem with all this is we don't know the reason different people aren't there. So they don't give you a specific reason. We know that Eddie Jackson is coming back from an injury, probably not there yet. Darnell Mooney coming back from an injury, clearly not there yet. Nate Davis doesn't make a ton of sense to me. And Brandon told us during the break, or he mentioned Muhammad missing time, and you looked it up, David, and he missed 2 weeks, right? He didn't show up until he had to. And who was the first guy cut in the offseason? They had no problem getting rid of him. This goes on your record, man. People are aware of whether you're in or you're out. Are you in? Are you part of it? Or are you out? And now, again, this is totally unfair because we don't know what was pre-scheduled, what was already, had they already spoken, and did he say, I got this going and that going, and I'm not going to be able to make it on this day. If I don't get in to see my knee doctor, I won't get, what's wrong with your knee? I don't know what it is, but it leaves us to speculate. Jaylon Johnson seems contractual. It really does, just because of his situation. And that idea that he's this year's Roquan Smith, that didn't work out great, right? That got personal, and Roquan got shipped. And the team didn't respond great to losing Roquan, as you may recall. I hope that this is nothing. And I wish they would give us a little more, or, let's have Jaylon come on with the afternoon show. That'd be even better. Tell the boys what he's thinking. That'd be great. I'd love to hear that.
I would love to hear that as well. I have an issue with all of this.
Even the injured guys?
Why can't the injured guy be there? I mean, I understand that
they may have been in the locker room. We don't know.
But if they're in the locker room, then they should say that. If they're in the tub, as we like to goof around, like Darnell Mooney, like I know we weren't expecting Darnell Mooney to be on the field, but if he's in the building, if he was in the trainer's room, if he was sitting on a golf cart and somebody missed that, then he shouldn't be part of this.
Yeah, I think there's a big
If he's
difference.
working out on his own and ignoring perhaps what the Bears training staff would suggest or implement, that's a problem.
Well, maybe he's
Darnell
been
Mooney's
seeing
in
them
no
all
position.
Along. Dustin, I'm not arguing, but maybe he's been seeing them all along, and this is a prearranged thing.
Well,
where
then
he's not
say
gonna go.
that. Why? What's the?
I
Is this
agree.
an OSHA thing? What are we doing here?
Like HIPAA?
I mean, it's personal. It's private. I don't get it.
I don't have a problem with Darnell Mooney or Eddie Jackson. I know where they are in terms of
You don't have a
being,
problem with Eddie Jackson?
No.
He's supposed to be a leader.
Yeah, I know, but he's
You don't
also
lead
coming
from
off
South
an injury.
Beach. We're in Chicago.
He's coming off an injury.
Get on an
So
airplane.
is Darnell Mooney. I don't have a problem with those guys because you know what? I know what they're going to give me. I know what kind of leaders they can be. I don't know that about Nate Davis. Now, maybe there's a good explanation, but Mully's right. You got to get on board at some point in time, and even if you're late arriving, you got to prove your worth, and he can do that, but El-Kadim Muhammad did not produce. He was easier to cut. These coaches are crazy. They care about everything. Everything. That's very coachy. You've got the coachiest of coaches.
Yeah.
This stuff matters. Jaylon Johnson, it is contractual. If it wasn't, Matt Eberflus would not have sounded the way that he sounded. He sounded a little like Rossi. He sounded a little
offensive.
Little crusty.
He's
That's good.
Defensive coach.
He is a defensive coach yesterday. Jaylon Johnson doesn't need our advice, but here's some. Get on board. The train's moving. I understand that you think that you're very good, that you're Pro Bowl caliber. You might be. But you know what? The Bears are moving on. I don't think that this is a Roquan Smith deal. Roquan Smith was an all-pro linebacker. I don't know that Jaylon Johnson is a product of our overinflated sense of what a cornerback is. I think we tend to overrate guys in our own town, and this is happening with Jaylon Johnson. I don't know that he has as good of an argument as some of the guys who have been in this situation before, and he can't forget that.
Yeah, I mean, think you answered your own question.
What was the best thing you heard from Justin Fields, who you just heard there? How about DJ Moore? Did it sound and look like these two guys already have some decent chemistry together?
Yeah, it does. I'm not going to overreact to a great deep ball on a double move in May. I would hope that he could hit that. Boy, does he look good. Boy, does he look this or that. And even if he looked bad, I'm not going to overreact to Justin Fields throwing against air on a nice May afternoon. I do think that what he had to say from the podium, quarterbacks are about leadership. Quarterbacks are about embracing what's in front of them and responsibilities that they understand. Justin Fields is already sounding like a more mature leader. He's sounding like a guy that gets it. And when he said that basically all I care about are wins, not the contract, when he was asked the question, and that was the way he answered it, I'm not worried about contracts, I'm worried about wins. That, to me, is what resonated the loudest on a day where the Bears were dealing with what they were dealing with other guys who weren't there.
Why is Justin Fields there? Why is DJ Moore there? I mean, I will overreact to the fact that they were there, that they were leading by example. I will overreact to the fact that they did deliver on a double move that went for a touchdown, because if we had video of Justin Fields overthrowing that or DJ Moore dropping that, I guarantee we'd be making a big deal about that this morning, regardless of whether it was May 22nd, 23rd, 24th, or 25th. That's what we do here. So kudos to both Justin Fields and to DJ Moore for deciding to show up and do their job.
Yeah, I like everything that I've been hearing. I like that these guys have bought in, and I like that they've become friends. I think Justin Fields, the more I hear from him, the more interested I am. I felt like all the news you got wasn't from the coach. It was from the quarterback. He was just letting you know what was going on, and he had no filter on it. And I really appreciated what he said about the contract, because you know what? That's absolutely correct. The money is there for him. He's the quarterback. If he has a good year, they're going to pay him a fortune. And he knows there's a gold pot at the end of the rainbow, and he isn't going to have to catch a leprechaun to get it. He is a guy that understands that things have improved around him. He understands what leadership is. He's been doing this a long time. He's a young man, but he has been in that role for about as long as you can be. And I think that this could be, again, he's got the same offensive coach. He's got guys that are more professional than the guys were there. I liked what he said about Chase Claypool.
Yeah.
He
gave us a status report.
If you picked apart what he said about Claypool, if I'm Claypool, I might be miffed. He talked about how he's not struggling anymore, and he talked about this guy. It's the buy-in factor with all these guys that is huge.
But he would not be the first quarterback, when you look around the league, to be honest and candid about the state of a receiver in terms of the maturity and development.
Totally true.
So that's why you like it. Just because he's 24 or 23, I think that we think, well, geez, he's his peer. Why would he talk about him in that way? And yet what he said was absolutely what you want to hear.
It was really good. Everything that guy said, and David pointed out the correct. The headline was he's not about the contract, he's about winning. The contract's there. He'll get the contract if he wins, and he knows it. So it's a fair comment on his part. Loved it. 312-644-6767.